Well, spring break is here. I'm going to finish off this transition fitting plumbing project, and I am so glad that I put all those weight racks on wheels a few years ago.
Buckle up your seat as I give you a day in the life of facilities maintenance.
I've set out all my tools and supplies, everything I need tonight so I can hit the ground running tomorrow morning. Essentially in this area here, I have 8 1-inch transition couplings that I need to do where it's transitioning from poly B to copper. So 8 of them here. I have 2 in this elevator room here that are transitioning from poly B to CPVC. Ugh. I have 2 in the library here that are transitioning from poly B to CPVC. And lastly, in this office here, I have 2 1-inch transitions from poly B to CPVC, and I have 1 3/4-inch transition from poly B to CPVC. This area will be the worst. And I am actually considering opening up the wall and getting better access into here because I can't fit both arms into here to make my couplings. Doing a 1-inch coupling is so hard. It takes so much force that unless you're properly squared up with it, you're just asking for trouble. And I really think I'd be doing myself a favor to remove a big enough section of wall to actually get at it. You know, it might even make the most sense to open up a panel right there and then just do a quick little drywall patch when all is said and done. Well, there's no changing my mind now. And I'm going to say that that is a much better way to access those lines right there. All right, all I need to do now is shut off the water, set the system to drain, and when I come back tomorrow, it should be ready for me. All right, I've shut off our water main, and this time actually, because it weeped on me last time, I've also shut off this one. It's along the same line, it just isolates the meter here. So hopefully, in shutting off both of those, I don't get any weepage. And my low point drain is right there. I don't want to leave the hose out overnight, so I will bring it into the sprinkler room and just stick the end down the drain. Morning, it's the next day, and this is a positive sign. Last time when I drained the system, and I only shut off this shutoff here, water was weeping through. And today, it's not. There is nothing coming out of the low point drain, so that's actually excellent. Well, I'm about ready to get going. I have shut off the main water. I've shut off all the secondary valves in the school. I've shut off the circ pump. I've got all my tools here. I've got towels. Just have to pick my playlist and get to work. If I'm honest, my biggest trepidation about this whole thing, and that has more to do with age and stage of life than anything else, is my back. I'm gonna be bent over for a lot of the day, and my low back will give me issues. I know this already. And the last time I did this with a smaller crimp tool, it was an offset 1-inch tool, I hurt my wrist. It required too much manual pressure. I've got a longer handled crimp tool this time, which should make life a little bit easier, but I'm hoping I don't aggravate that. So without any further ado, here we go. So my first experience with one of these fittings failing was about 5.5 years ago, and the fitting just cracked and was leaking all over the place. This next image that I'm inserting here actually shows a couple repairs that are before my time, and this rubber bungee cord that was clamped around this pipe is a temporary repair for a pinhole leak. As for what I'm doing right now, I'll try to give you some details as I go along here. I've undone all the old poly B couplings, and now I'm cutting the copper pipe off. Once I cut that off, I'll clean up the copper pipe because I want my slip coupling to make an excellent seal. Essentially what I'm doing here is I'm creating space to recouple these lines with a slip coupling over the copper pipe and a crimped transition fitting in the poly B. If you've noticed this green tool that I'm working on the end of the pipe there, what that does is it creates a chamfered edge, takes off any burrs or sharp edges on the pipe. That way I'll make sure that I don't tear the gasket, the little rubber seal that's in the slip coupling that I use later on. Now, because there has been a compression fitting on the end of all these poly B pipes, I have to start with a fresh clean end. So I'm clipping the old ends off the pipe. In that way my transition coupling will be crimping on fresh pipe. So now I'm slipping on all my crimp rings and putting my transition fittings in. And now I'm taking a pair of lockjaw pliers and I'm just giving it a slight little squeeze to set the position of them. I don't want them to move when I come along and crimp them. So here we are. I mentioned earlier that I borrowed a set of crimpers for these 1-inch couplings from a friend of mine who's a plumber. They don't work at all. They're far too big. There's no adjustability to them. Nothing. So I had to switch back to these offset crimpers. It's easier in tighter spaces being offset. I can get into smaller areas, but the handles are shorter, and the amount of pressure involved to actually crimp them is tremendous. So now what I just did there was I marked the ends of the pipe 1.25 inches from the end. That's what's required on a 1-inch pipe for these slip couplings. And now I'm tired. I'm resting. So I've taken those slip couplings and I've slipped them up onto the copper as far as they will go. And what I'm inserting here now are short pieces of PEX piping that will be crimped to the transition coupling on the bottom, and the slip coupling will slip down over top of them on the top side. I get ahead of myself right here. I mark 1.25 inches down on these pieces of PEX as well, and I start putting the slip couplings down over top of them. Two things. These 1-inch slip couplings are really hard to move. I think because they're fairly old stock, they don't fly off the shelves. Nobody uses these things anymore for 1-inch, and they're probably quite dried out inside. The other thing is, I've been working so hard at this that I fail to realize that I haven't crimped my transition fitting at the bottom. So I need to undo the 3 that I've been fighting with for the last 10 minutes so that I can crimp my transitions at the bottom. So not only are these handles shorter on these offset crimpers, I think the fact that they're offset also takes away from the leverage that you'd have with them otherwise. I think the straight handled versions transfer more power to the head that's doing the crimping. So what I'm doing here that I haven't done before is I'm adding a little bit of plumber's grease to the end of each of these pipes. It's going to accept one of these slip couplings. My hope is that it makes these slip couplings a little bit easier to slide on. And that, my friends, was 1.5 hours. Well, the grease definitely helped, and with Mark's help I was able to put these slip couplings down over top of the PEX piping. These last 2 on the right hand side, even though they had been previously repaired, I'm not comfortable with a shark bite fitting over top of a poly B pipe. Shark bites are not rated for poly B.
So I'm crimping in a poly B to PEX transition fitting, and then I'll use the slip coupling to connect to the copper. Yeah, even with the grease on there, these old stock 1-inch slip couplings are so hard to put down into position. To be able to press down on that release ring and muscle it down, slipping it over the PEX, is just proving not doable. So off I go to get Mark for that third arm of his. And 2.5 hours after starting, I am done this area. I just want to check everything with a go no-go before I leave, just to make sure everything is crimped properly and we do not have any issues or any leaks or any problems with this room ever again.
I tell you, 1/2 inch and 3/4, easy peasy. But this 1-inch stuff is just harder in every way. And if you don't get the leverage, if you can't get the right angle at it, you're fighting it. And man, it sure made it easier with one person trying to slip the coupling down while the other person released it from the top, as opposed to trying to do both, because you need 2 hands to get that release clip to release. At least I do. So the second person really helped to slip it down into place. But they're all done in this room, and these were our main culprits here. This is where we've had the most failures. And so it is really nice to see all of these finished, because that floor out there is very expensive. Which takes me to what I'd have to consider the second most important area, because it also is proximate to this floor, and this is where we had the flood a couple of months ago. We had the flood right here. This one burst. That old poly B fitting. And I've done everything except those 2 right there. So I'm going to do those. And then this gym floor will be as protected as we can make it, short of replumbing the building.
My apologies as we pick up partway through the project here. My camera lost the footage that I recorded at the front end of this. So I'm picking up at this point, where I'm almost ready to put the slip couplings into position. And yeah, there's 2 reasons why I'm using these SharkBite slip couplings. I haven't mentioned it yet, and some of you may be questioning the use of a SharkBite, but really, besides the fact that I have to use a slip coupling because I can't spread these 2 pipes apart, this SharkBite is the only thing in Canada that allows me to make a transition between 1-inch CPVC and 1-inch PEX. If you know of another product that I could use, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear about it.
The gymnasium. It is protected.
Alright, let's move on over to the library, where I have 2 1-inch poly B to CPVC transitions here. Now, what you didn't see in the elevator room because I lost the footage was cutting the CPVC pipe. I am using a multi-tool because it's a very safe way that I can hold on to the pipe and let the tool do the work so that I don't force it and potentially crack it. Well, we've been here before. I'm trying to fight with these things to press down on that release clip and get these transition fittings to slide down over the PEX pipe. And I have to be so very careful with this CPVC pipe that's in the upper part of the wall because it is brittle and it will crack. Eric was in the other room, so this time I got him to help me. Which takes me to the last spot where I have 2 1-inch and 1 3/4 inch fitting to replace. This is where I cut the big hole in the wall. Here's that time where I knew that I screwed up immediately by pushing the slip coupling too far on, knowing that I was going to have great difficulty getting something in there to release that clip.
These ones scared me. This was the last one that I did, and the amount of pressure on this T right here just scared the crap out of me. But with Mark's help, I was able to get it, and everything is back together now. All the poly B transitions are done, all those couplings. Everything now has a crimped poly B to PEX transition. And short of replumbing the whole school, that's the best we can do.
Well, that was a job. I am very glad to be done. I'm appreciative of all the help I got from Mark when I needed it. And yeah. Now I'm just making my rounds, going through the school, flushing any sediment from the lines, getting all the air out of the lines so people don't wonder why their lines are burping or their water is brown. And once I've done that, I'm going home. I am worn out. Oh, there's a burp. Thank you so much for watching. If you stuck it out to the end, I really appreciate it. I hope you learned something. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please feel free to like this video and subscribe. I really appreciate that. That really helps the channel. And yeah. Once I've done flushing these lines, I'm going home. Once again, thanks very much for watching. Have a great day. See you next time.
Don't want to be standing in front of that when it flushes.